Good afternoon, everyone. And of course, we've got 2,000 people registered online as well for this event. So thank you so much for all turning up today. We've got a pretty exciting session ahead with Sam. Before we begin the program, as I say, I'm Sarah Cocker. I'm your MC today. And I'm just going to run through some basic housekeeping just to keep those questions going during this 1-hour session. We've got loads of people on the ground with microphones because it's such a well-attended event. So if you have any question, please raise your hand. If you could just briefly give your name and organization and try and keep those questions concise. And of course, that will help Sam orientate his questions towards what you'd like to ask today. We want to give everyone the maximum opportunity to ask a question. So please only ask one question at a time and then return the microphone to the team members on the ground. We promise, though, to allow you to ask as many questions as possible, which is what is the point of today, and we've got one whole hour to do so. Finally, if you could please abide by the rules and guidelines of the team on the ground. Of course, they're for your safety and for the safety of everyone else as well. Well, it now gives me great pleasure to invite to the stage Deputy CEO of Hub 71, Ahmed Ali Alwan, for his welcome address.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ahmed Ali Alwan, Deputy CEO of Hub 71. Your Excellencies, esteemed partners, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time to attend this session today. Within 36 hours of us opening up, this event got completely full from a physical space perspective. The amount of attention we got and the build-up to it has been phenomenal. So I am ever grateful for you being close to, obviously, OpenAI, to Hub 71, and making time to attend today. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you here at this session, and I would like to especially thank OpenAI, ADGM, G42, and Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence for making this event happen today. At Hub 71, we have created an enabling environment that supports the growth journey of startups from ideation up to scale-up and maturity. And through that journey, we've been able to build a network of partners that have supported us and carried our mission throughout not only the UAE, but beyond, positioning us to capture an opportunity like the one we have today. So before we welcome on stage our special guest, Mr. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, I'd like to welcome Dr. Andrew Jackson, who leads G42's AI research program. In case you didn't know,
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Andrew Jackson. I'm leading the Inception Institute for Artificial Intelligence. And I'm here today to represent the Abu Dhabi and UAE AI ecosystem. Let me start off by characterizing the ecosystem as unified, emerging, and also very ambitious. We have a leadership mandate from a leadership who profoundly believes that AI will transform the world. We have unified our different people who are working on AI, from MBZU AI, TII, and IAI as part of Group 42. We're currently working to unify all the data sets of UAE and leverage them in new artificial intelligence models. We're also trying to digitize the world of Arabic content. We are contributing to open source. This is seen in Vicuna and Falcon, and soon more models will follow. We are a political powerhouse and will be central to AI regulation globally. We've already seen our participation in COP and moving towards an energy transformation, and we believe the same will happen for AI. And finally, we're collaborators. We work with everybody. And especially in this new race for AI, we hope to collaborate with as many people as we can and contribute back to the world in terms of achieving AI for humanity. With this, thank you very much, guys, and I really want to welcome Sam to the stage. Cheers.
It's great to be here. I have not done one of these without like an interviewer before, so this will be fun. The energy in this place for AI is unlike anywhere else I've quite seen in the world, and it's been like that for a while, which has been special to see. So we're excited to figure out how we can collaborate, and I would love to answer questions. I don't know how we're going to do this.
Here we have one question in the middle, so if you could bring the microphone here, please. And if you could say your name and organization briefly, one question only.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Majid Al-Majani. I work for Do Telecom. I'm an account manager, so I deal with multiple clients here in the UAE. I have a use case from a client from today, around 2 hours ago, where they want to deploy ChatGPT within their communication process between users internally and externally, so through WhatsApp or through a chatbot. But what had come out was the focus on security.
Yeah.
And how can the client secure the information that's being sent across?
So we're trying to figure out exactly how to get this right. We're super open to feedback on what people want for it. We don't train on any data that's ever submitted to the API, but it does go in transit, and people are still worried about that. And then there's like data residency laws in some countries. So we're taking this very seriously. The enterprise adoption has just been way faster than we expected. But we're open to specific suggestions of what you'd like if you want to email me after. And we want to make something that enterprises feel totally comfortable with, even when the data is going in transit.
So I think we have another question here on the front row, please.
Hi, Sam. Happy to have you here in Abu Dhabi. It's a great honor for all of us. My name is Liaz El-Kuwaiti. I work for Mubadala Investment Company. I've been looking into your debate in the US Congress last month. You've been questioned alongside another 3 experts in AI on so many ideas and future and challenges and so on. And you stressed on the fact that opportunities of AI by far larger than risks.
Yeah.
And that's why the Congress, and I would imagine most of the regulators will be pushing to regulate this industry because it's new. In your opinion, would regulations or regulating this industry will close the gap between opportunities and risks? Or in your view, how can we capture those opportunities in much larger scale?
It's a great question. I think the reason the world has such a hard time thinking about this technology, on one hand, we have what most people would agree is the greatest economic opportunity the world has ever seen coming at us in real time, and it's going to come fast. And on the other, as with any really powerful technology, we face serious risk. We face existential risk. And the challenge that the world has is how we're going to manage those risks and make sure we still get to enjoy the tremendous benefits. So everybody wants, to solve all diseases. Everybody wants to provide fantastic healthcare. Everybody wants great education, productivity gains, discovery of new science, all of this stuff that's going to happen, and no one wants to destroy the world. And no one wants to do things not even that bad, but still bad. So that's what we've got to focus on. I totally believe it is possible to not stifle innovation and to address the big risks. I think it would be a mistake to go regulate the current models of today. I think we need the thriving open source community. I think we need companies like ours and others pushing on models. But it's important to remember that we're on an exponential curve. The number one thing about this technology that I think people don't understand is that in a few years, GPT-4 is going to look like a little toy that was not that impressive. I think we have 2 miracles. We have an algorithm that learns, really truly learns, and it gets predictably better with scale, which means we're on an exponential. and it means we're not about to S-curve, it's not about to top off. Maybe somehow we're wrong, but I think it's just going to keep going. And that's hard for any of us to wrap our heads around. Humans, evolutionary biology did not make us good at intuiting exponential curves for whatever reason. And now we're on one. And so we have to simultaneously say, on the stuff that's not very dangerous, let's make sure to get the benefits. But as we approach the stuff that can be very dangerous, let's make sure we come together as a globe. And I hope this place can play a real role in this. Let's make sure we come together as a globe and put some guardrails on this. We talk about the IAEA as a model, where the world has said, okay, very dangerous technology, let's all put some guardrails. And I think we can do both. I think in this case, it's a nuanced message, because it's saying it's not that dangerous today, but it can get dangerous fast. But we can thread that needle.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Junior Heisis. I'm CEO and founder of AHub, and we organize hackathons for artificial intelligence. And I really wanted to ask a question, and I even asked ChatGPT which question should I ask you. So the question was, what is the future of artificial intelligence? How do you see it? But me personally, I'm super interested on how ChatGPT will disrupt different industries, and where do you see the biggest progress? Thank you.
So in terms of what the future is going to look like, there's all the obvious things we can talk about. You know, GPT-5 will be smarter than GPT-4, GPT-6 will be smarter than that. We'll go get every modality working, so there'll be images, audio, video, text, computer programming all together, and then biology and stuff like that. And I think we can all assume that, and we can all say, all right, you know, it's just going to get smarter and smarter every year. The thing that I think is hardest to wrap our heads around, or for me at least, is the phase after that, and we call like the next paradigm, when the AI can't just learn more and be smarter, but when it can develop new knowledge. So if you think about Newton, for an example, there was a time where what he was doing was reading every math textbook he could find, every paper, talking to every friend, every smart professor. And then at some point, it was time to go beyond that, and reading more books was not going to help him. And right now, the way we go from GPT 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, whatever, is to do the equivalent of read more books. At some point, you have to start generating new ideas. You know, if calculus has not been discovered yet, you're not going to figure out calculus by reading more books. You got to just start thinking. And we need the models to learn how to start thinking, to figure out how to come up with those new ideas, and to contribute, you know, one model here, just like humans do, contribute new knowledge to society and build on each other. And that's what's going to come at some point. And that, I think, is when the world can just get dramatically better faster. Not only do we make cognitive labor available cheaply to the world, which will raise the, which we're doing now, but we begin to invent new knowledge. And I think the only sustainable way to make the world better, to increase quality of life for everybody, is with new science, new technology. So that's what's coming next. And then in terms of disrupting industries, like most of them, I think AI is going to touch a lot of things. There's some that it won't. There's a lot of things where we really want humans to do things. We really care about what humans do. But if you just think about automating most knowledge work, that's powerful. And it's not powerful because it just takes all of our jobs. That would be boring. It's powerful because it's the floor.
We're just going to get your handheld
All right,
mic.
thank you.
Sorry, it's cutting out there.
It raises the floor on what all of us can do, and also the expectations. So as time goes on, when we have this powerful technology, we can all accomplish more. We can be 10 times than 100 times more productive, which means we can do fundamentally new things. It's not just a quantitative shift.
Sam, I just wanted to go online because we've got 2,000 people registered for this event, and Mohammed Sinan from Litz Patner is asking me, which I think is really relevant because, of course, a lot of this comes down to cash. He's saying, how will large language models impact small-scale researchers in universities who don't have that much funding? And then to your previous point, will all us software engineers lose our jobs?
So
you know, our goal is to make the smartest, best, most capable model and make it available as cheaply as possible. Like that is how we think we can contribute to the world. Researchers do all sorts of amazing work on top of that, and it contributes into that. But if you're trying to just like compete directly with us to scale up LLMs, like probably we will win the race. But there's so much else to do. Don't do the thing that everybody else is doing. Go figure out everything else. I think this is a time where researchers in academia can contribute more than they have been able to in a long time. Now that we've produced these models, there's so much we don't understand about them yet. There's so much more we need to do. We have great partnerships with a lot of academics doing work on top of the models or work that feeds into the models. We desperately need new efficiency gains, better architectures, algorithms. So work on that. We'd love to work with you. But trying to just like, I don't think academia is like best positioned to just run the scale up race. But that's okay, because that's not the most exciting thing anymore. There was a time when kind of only OpenAI believed that, and we had like a big edge there, but now everybody believes that, and there's, I think, less alpha there. So go do all of the other work that's important to get to the next paradigm and the one after that. Work on great data sets, work on great evals. Academia absolutely leads the charge there. And then on computer programmers, no. I mean, I think there was a period of time where computer programmers were very worried that Copilot and then ChatGPT was going to take their jobs, and no one thinks that anymore. Now, everyone just, it's a great example of when the floor is lifted up, the expectations lift up too, and it turned out the world wanted way more code and way more sophisticated code than existed, and so now people can output maybe 2 or 3 times the productivity level, and it's still not enough.
We have one at the back here.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a college student, and my question is, how far off do you see the singularity?
Can you define, at this point I think we're close enough, we have to be more precise on the definition. What does the singularity mean to you?
To me, I define it as a point in where technology reaches a point where it's out of control and it's out of control and it's at a point where it's irreversible.
I would say I hope never then.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think, let me add one more sentence or one more paragraph. I think it's important that we realize these are tools and not creatures that we're building, and that we get to make the decisions about how they work. I think it'd be a mistake to just say, all right, human out of the loop, hand this over, do whatever you want, change your own architecture, go do all these things. I think it's very important that the future of humanity is determined by humanity, and that is like an active choice we can make.
Please stand up and ask your question.
Hi, Sam. Vic Wells from Alt Law. My question relates to ethics. And I'd like to know, how can we design AI systems that reflect our shared human values, and should we?
Certainly we should. The question of how, I'm very glad you asked this, is something we've been thinking about a lot recently. We're going to try to learn it. I think it's very hard to write down the ethics of all of humanity, but maybe you can learn it. So maybe you can, and we recently published a new program of grants for people that have ideas about how to do this, how you get democratic input on values of the world, how you define what the broad limits of what these systems will do, will never do, what the defaults are, how much an individual country or user can customize it. So if you're interested in working on this, please apply for our grant program. We really want new ideas. But this idea that the system can talk to each person on Earth, understand their value system, maybe help them make some moral progress and say, have you thought about it this way? Here's what other people say. Here's a perspective you may not have heard. It's still up to you. If you want to stick with your answer, that's fine, but let's have a dialogue. And then from all of that, the system can learn like the collective moral preferences of humanity. I think that's pretty exciting.
Hey Sam, I'm Rhythm, a 16-year-old building quantum batteries in the backyard. Super excited to see where AI is going to go into the future. And I'm part of the organization called TKS. Here's my question to you. What is an AI-specific skill that young people should have that will compound over time? As we're young, ambitious people trying to make a dent in the universe, what do you think is an AI-specific skill that we should have?
I'll give you like a meta answer instead of one specific skill. A thing that we've been hearing a lot from companies is that, it used to be that the people that joined right out of school were not the most productive, and it was the people that, had been there for 5 or 7 years were, of course, more productive, like you'd expect. And they've seen an inversion of that in the past few months because young people have embraced, as always, new technology faster. And so people who have figured out how to use ChatGPT in their workflow before the older people have had a huge edge and are now, in many cases, more productive. And so my meta answer, and I think this happens anyway, and it's why young people sort of lead technology revolutions, is just keep using the tools as right when they come out and figure out how to use them to do all of your work better. It's not any one specific skill, but it's like the mindset of like, there is this amazing new thing in the world. It can impact almost anything, and I'm going to figure out how to leverage it better than anybody else.
Hi, I'm Ifat Turbiner, Dr. Ifat Turbiner from the Israeli Embassy and Ben Gurion University. And my question is about you being a successful entrepreneur. So drawing on that, what are the main qualities that young entrepreneurs should cultivate in order to be successful and to navigate successfully the uncertainties in the entrepreneurial ecosystem?
So before I ran OpenAI, I ran this thing called Y Combinator for many years, and we invest in lots of startups. And so over the course of a decade, I probably met tens of thousands of entrepreneurs, funded, I guess, thousands of them, at least many hundreds. And I spent a lot of time trying to observe what those skills are. There's all of the obvious ones, like you need to be really smart and you need a good idea and a growing market. I'll leave all of those off because they're all over the internet. The things I observed that were less obvious, number one, you need to be very resilient. Like the whole experience of the beginning of a startup is quite miserable. It has like moments of fun, but on the whole, like stuff's going wrong, no one believes in you, you kind of like can't get anything to quite work, and it's like a long period of that, and most people just give up. One of the things that we learned at YC is you actually can teach people to be resilient, at least you can cultivate it. And that is like super valuable. Another one is this spirit of like, and it's closely related, but whatever problem comes my way, I'm gonna figure it out, even if I don't know how to figure it out right now. And that sort of just like, it's a combination of self-belief and adaptability and resilience that's very important. Another one is you have to be at least a very good and ideally a great communicator. Your job, especially at the beginning of a startup, ends up being like kind of like chief evangelist. When we started OpenAI and we were talking about AGI, most people thought we were like crazy at best. Many of them probably thought we were just like full on like running a scam. And to be able to convince people that like, hey, this is unlikely, but let's try. It's so valuable if it works. It's not prevented by the laws of physics. There's these promising things. Getting the energy together to do that requires a lot of good communication to people you're trying to hire, investors, partners, customers, whatever. And that was a skill that I think just doesn't get talked about, but is quite important. And then another one, and then I'll stop. I could give like an hour answer on this. I thought about it for a long time. A very long-term orientation. So I think most people are, like, what can I get done in a few years? And if you're willing to say, what can I get done in a few decades, even if I have to be totally misunderstood for the next few years, that is a very powerful skill. I can't resist on one more. Just like the ability to get a lot of stuff done quickly, which I think is also a teachable skill. Some combination of like decisiveness, willfulness, prioritization, whatever you want to call it, but like a lot of productivity per unit time, a startup really rewards. Someday I'm going to write like a very long blog post about the other 300 things, but there's a quick one.
Hi, Sam. I'm Björn. I'm the founder of CareSyntax, and we're bringing AI to surgery. And I have a question. I have 2 daughters that are very young, and sometimes I get worried about the future and if AI is going to turn malignant on humans. And then I watch the internet videos, and it says it's a 50-50 whether or not it happens. And my question to you is, are you worried about that? And do you think that actually with more intelligence, I witness, at least in humans, more humanity, unless there's a personality disorder or something like this. Do you think that is, or is that your belief as well?
So I am worried about this, but I'm way, 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 way more optimistic than 50-50. I think people say 50-50 when they're just like, oh, I can't think rigorously about this. But more than that, I think it's a number we can affect. The work we all collectively do changes that number a lot. I think there are very unsafe paths, and there's like much safer paths. And I think we're actually heading to a pretty safe path. When it looked like we were going to maybe get to AGI by having these reinforcement learning agents learn to play games, they were just trying to like beat humans and deceive humans while they were beating them, and then play more and more sophisticated things and eventually be released into the real world and be totally inscrutable. I was like, that doesn't sound great. But I think the path that we're on now of a language model that takes in some text and gives you back some text and can express what it's doing step by step in natural language, it can still be horribly misused. It can still go totally wrong. But I think we at least have a path to the optimistic outcome. I think the degree to which the world is now discussing AGI and the risk associated with it and what the world needs to do to come together to have a regulatory framework to mitigate this risk is a tremendously positive sign. That if you asked me a year ago, would this be happening right now, I would say very unlikely. And so I think that's a great step as well. So I'd say we have a lot of work to do, but playing the guessing game of what the probability of doom is not particularly helpful. The answer is to go do the hard work to like get it to trend closer and closer to zero.
Hi, Simeon Kerr from the Financial Times. Hi. I just wondered if you could talk a bit more about your ambitions in this region, what kind of conversations you're having with the authorities here, and in terms of regulation, what those conversations are and where you think that might be going here, especially given your concerns about regulation in Europe. Thank you very much.
First of all, I think regulation in Europe is good. I think I was like quoted completely out of context, and actually just there were like the articles said I said something I just didn't say. What I meant to say and what I believe and what I think I said is that if we can't comply with the law in Europe, of course we won't break it, but we expect a productive conversation and we think that regulation makes sense and there'll be a path here that's really good. In terms of the region, there's been like a huge amount of excitement. We've been here the last couple of days, and I am hopeful that the region can play a central role in this global conversation. Again, I think there's been discussion about AI here in particular, Abu Dhabi in particular, before it was cool. Now like everybody's on the AI bandwagon, which we're excited about, but we have like special appreciation for the people that were like, talking about this when everyone thought AI was not going to happen. So I think there's desire, commitment, willingness here to participate, and this idea of a global organization that leaves models of the current scale, and certainly anything smaller, probably bigger too, alone, but really thinks about how we're going to address that existential risk we were just talking about, what a licensing framework looks like, how we establish this sort of series of tests and evaluations a model has to pass while it's training above a certain scale, how we decide when we get to deploy it. I think there's excitement in the region to play a leading role there.
Thank you, Sam. Once again, my name is Ahmed Alwan. I'm Deputy CEO of Hub 71. Perhaps my question relates more to your prior experience with the YC. So I have the pleasure of looking after Hub 71, which is a tech hub based out of Abu Dhabi. I'm actually here next to my colleague, Najla Al-Midfa, who looks after the tech hub out of Sharjah, another emirate in the UAE. So would love to get your advice, opinion on what's the best environment or initiatives for us to support and scale startups out of the UAE and this region.
You should discount me heavily what I'm about to say, but I would just go all in on AI as like the thing that is gonna matter in the next decade. I mean, I think like we are about to have the greatest startup boom since the internet, and everyone's gonna win. Like and I would just stay focused on that.
Hi, my name is Zohair. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Jalebi. We're building a restaurant technology company, but that's unimportant right now. Thank you very much. I just wanted to bring a little bit of context, and it's kind of a generational question. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this concept called future shock. It's something that I'm very fascinated by. It was a book written in the 60s, very dystopian. And I think about this problem that I'm having where I've got a 3.5-year-old son and I have a 91-year-old dad. And I want to find a way for them to be able to communicate with each other, and they're geographically distant. And I'm wondering if there's a way that AI or technology today could actually help that, because my worry is that that generational gap is so large that my son won't have a chance to have a relationship with his grandfather. I don't know if this is in the realm.
You know, I'm very interested in this as a general topic. One of the things that I think is interesting about, let me back up even a little bit more. I think the history of technology, of computers at least, has been towards simpler and more natural interfaces. So we used to have like punch cards, only very sophisticated people could do that. Probably much older people never learned that. And then we kind of like got to the command line, and then by the time we got to the graphical user interface and a mouse and a keyboard, you know, definitely young people were more fluent, and it gave some future shock to older people, but like older people learned to use those. That was a mass market thing. And then the iPhone came along, and I think multi-touch was even more natural because we got rid of that mouse and keyboard, and now we're just using our hands. And little kids could pick those up. Old people who never were able to figure out how to use computers, or they could have but they didn't want to, figured that out. And the natural language interface, this sort of ChatGPT idea, is even a step further. Everybody knows how to talk. Almost everybody knows how to text. And we're now at a kind of where I call it like the Star Trek computer, but it's kind of like the computer that sci-fi always predicted, or close. You know, we got to get the whole holodeck thing working still. But probably your 3.5-year-old and a 91-year-old can both use it. And that's an unusual thing about a new technology. And I am hopeful that although future shock with AI, like the pace is going to feel breathtaking, the rate of change in the world is going to be intense, but it's wrapped in an interface that kind of everybody, you know, we're very naturally suited to use. And I think it's going to bring people along in a way that we haven't yet seen with any technology before. Do they both use it?
To give some context, my dad is like 70% he can't hear. So when they have a conversation, it's mostly just hello, hello, hello. So I'm not sure exactly what the use is, but there's a sort of a gap that's forming, and it's harder and harder to fill that. And I'm wondering if, you know.
I am hopeful that somehow this is going to help.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Greg Ramon. I run a film production house. And I'm referring to one of the latest blog posts you had on your company's website, where you talk about that we might expect a super intelligent AGI within the next 10 years at some point. Do you think that the global workforce is moving towards a universal basic income in order to sustain the massive amount of efficiency that AI provides, and probably a workforce being laid off? Thank you.
So I think we go through technological revolutions. We've gone through many in history. And it appears to me from trying to study them that in about 2 generations, we can adapt to any amount of labor market change. The hard part about this one is how fast it may happen. Now, we may be totally wrong. We're not saying we're sure this happens in 10 years. We're just saying it'd be good for the world to put some effort into planning for it on a 10-year horizon. Like, I think that would be prudent. But it's the speed that I think makes it challenging. I think a UBI is a good idea. Something like that is a good idea, but it's totally insufficient. People work for a lot of reasons, even if they don't need to make more money. The fulfillment that comes from it, the sense of purpose, the desire to create, the desire to be useful, that's not going to go anywhere. And I'm also not a believer that we just run out of work to do. I think with more powerful tools, we will do a lot more stuff. It may almost certainly will look super different than many of the jobs of today. But I think I could name with confidence many jobs of the future, and there will be many more that none of us can imagine, or at least we'd only imagine if by chance. We're just going to do different stuff, and it'll be, I think, way better. We will look back at, this period of 2023 and say, we didn't have very good lives then relative to what's possible now.
Hello. Hi, Sam.
Yep. Hi. Here.
Hello.
Sam.
I don't know what to do.
My name is Salim Al-Haddad. I'm a student at Khalif University, a really research-intensive university here. We focus on AI, computer vision, a lot of engineering disciplines we focus on. I work also out of a early stage fund in Silicon Valley. My question is simply, we know that OpenAI and LLMs are huge in terms of making productivity exponential, and it really pays the technical depth that has been there or have been there for the past 20 years since the inception of coding and programming and computers. I really want to know and ask you about, we see a lot of companies like Zapier where they've scaled their company to, a bunch of $1 billion per year in revenue in a team that is under 20 or under 30 people. Can we see that sort of companies where we see companies that build billion-dollar companies with 3 or 4 or 5 people?
I have, in my WhatsApp group with my friends, we have a little betting pool for the first year that a single person $1 billion company is founded. So I think so, yes.
So I'm just going to quickly dive in because we've got another question online. This is following on from Simeon's question, and it's Dana from CNN Business Arabia. And she's saying that you threatened to leave the EU over the AI law and then reconsidered your decision. What is your action plan once the EU and other governments start implementing AI regulation, particularly copyright, I think she's focusing on?
Yeah, we did not threaten to leave the EU. We said that we are going to work with the EU. We expect to be able to comply. There's still more clarity we're waiting for on the EU AI Act, but we're very excited to operate in Europe. Unlike some other AI companies, we currently operate in Europe. What we said is if we can't comply with the law, then we won't break it, which I thought was like one of the most innocuous and least offensive statements one could possibly make, but apparently not. So that's our plan. In terms of copyright, look, legally, I think from a fair use perspective, we're in, that's very clear. But morally, we want to find, this is like a new technology, and we want to find a way that people that are creating content, people that are making the AI systems better, people who are helping benefit users of the AI get rewarded for it. Like, that seems like a great thing to do. We're engaged now with content owners and content creators about what they want. People want very different things, so we're going to have to figure out a system that works reasonably well for everybody. But that's totally where we all should get.
Hi, Sam. Hello. Yeah, my name is Kashif. I'm a founder of a company called Payco. So Payco is an all-in-one platform for SMBs to manage all their payments. It's like a super app for SMBs. So what we have done is, as the entrepreneurship ecosystem is growing in the region, so we are building an AI platform called Phantom, which Phantom is a platform which will help these companies, startups, SMBs, in setting up their business from scratch to helping them on every level. And we are also building a lot of content which is really localized content in terms of helping them in certain processes. But now we want to also, once we are live here, we want to also build this. It's like a Y Combinator startup school kind of a thing, but more in terms of AI platform. So how are we able to scale it in different geographies with the same concept that it will help entrepreneurs build their businesses faster?
The question is, what will help you scale it faster?
Yeah, like the same, because we feel that we have to build a lot of content in order to make sure that the entrepreneur has all the processes streamlined, whatever they need in their entrepreneurship journey. Yeah.
I mean, I think LLMs should be really good at that. If you can't figure out how to make GPT-4 pretty good at that, I'd be surprised and quite disappointed. Let me know if it doesn't work, and that'll be an interesting research question for us.
Thank you.
Hi, Sam.
Sorry? Mohammed Al-Katabi from Abu Dhabi Executive Office. Can you give us a sneak peek of what GPT-10 looks like?
I mean, I promise I'm at least as curious as you. I think by the time of something we call GPT-10, we're out of just the pure I actually can't even predict. I was going to make a bunch of statements and I was like, maybe these will all be wrong. I don't want to say something stupid. I think it will be an extraordinary thing. I think it'll be something that like is a giant multiplier on human ability and productivity, but the exact shape of it, that's a little hard. Predicting that far out is pretty, I mean, that's like, you know, we're talking something that's like more than a decade out. That's pretty hard.
Hi, Sam. Hi, my name's Lee. I have been working with the AGGM FinTech team for the last year using LLMs like OpenAI. And in a regulated space, hallucinations are quite a problem. Is your thought on critical industries that we have to accept hallucinations in LLMs, or as we get to 5, 6, 7, 8, they will slowly disappear?
We are working hard to make them slowly disappear. It's definitely one of the biggest challenges in the way of using these models. We have a lot of ideas for what we can do. I'd say our team is like optimistic that we're going to solve this problem, but it's still research, so I can't like promise you by exactly when, but we are very focused on it.
Hello. Hi, Sam. Good afternoon. My name is Louis. I'm from Venom Blockchain Foundation. And my question is about giving the power of decision to LLMs. So they're fantastic knowledge base, and we're working with a particular design and an architecture. And one of the things that I'd love to hear your thoughts on are inserting memory and inserting time into the LLM so it can make a decision and predict going forward in the future. We have a particular architecture which is connecting different type of AI to neural networks, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on what you predict going forward to give AGI LLMs this decision-making power.
It's definitely important to do. I don't know exactly like when we will get to it as a research problem, but we will at some point. I think like a really useful system needs both of those things.
Hello, Sam. My name is José. People from Hub 71, they call me Crazy José sometimes because I'm always running here and there. And we create technologies for people with disabilities to use computers and everything. If you were Bill Gates, I would say that we created this to use Microsoft. But as you are Sam Altman, I can say that we created this for these kids to use ChatGPT. And it's working because kids with 6, 7 years old, they are writing books using our technology and to support them to write books and to do everything. And I would like to ask you, what have you been doing in this field for people with disabilities? And if you accept collaborations, I have already written something here if you want to check later.
Yeah, we'd be happy to talk. We're working a lot on new modalities to increase accessibility. We also hear that even with our current systems, people with disabilities, for example, are able to use our speech recognition system that may not be able to use others. But we want the system to be as usable for people with disabilities as possible. And I think we've made some progress and we'll make a lot more.
Hi, I'm Dariga. I'm a student at NYU Abu Dhabi, and I want to get your opinion on what is your perspective on how to best integrate artificial intelligence in college education, and what do you see the future of college students across different majors, and how do they use AI to improve the future? Thank you.
I mean, I think it's already transforming education. We can look in the future, but I think we already see what's happening, which is people will use this for, something between one-on-one tutoring and interactive textbooks. But you can have a system that'll really get to know you, your learning style, what you know, what you're interested in, what you're bad at, what you don't know, and provide you like a very personalized experience. Even just using ChatGPT with GPT-4 out of the box, you can do pretty well. And if you use some of the partners that have built services on top, you can do very well. So I think we'll just see more of that.
Hello, Sam.
Hello.
I wanted to ask if there were some particular AI safety measures that you have been using in OpenAI to combat specifically the alignment problem.
Great question. In the short term, I think we have pretty good techniques. So RLHF, which we developed, we used heavily for GPT-4, along with some other ideas like refusals, where we train the model to not do certain things. And for the current scale, that's worked pretty well. In fact, it's worked so well, people look at GPT-4 and say the alignment problem is solved, and that's very scary. It's definitely not, and I think people can get overconfident looking at what the current models can do. We will need to develop new techniques as the technology continues on. We've put out a couple of blog posts about the ideas that we're currently most excited about, where we're sort of using models that we understand to help us evaluate the output of models that are more powerful, and then eventually we can use the models themselves to help us come up with new alignment research ideas. And then we have many other ideas. We just started a new team focused on more advanced ideas, and more of that will come. If anyone is interested in working on this, you should definitely get in touch with us. I think this is like one of the most important challenges of the next decade.
Hey, Sam. Hi. I'm founder of Precious Payloads, the space tech startup where we're like a marketplace between the rockets and satellites. And I would say that thirds of our operations are already being run by ChatGPT, including legal contracts and everything. So I have a question, rather personal. So I'm looking at you. I look at you face to face, look at you in Congress hearings and everything, and you're being asked whether you have equity in OpenAI, right? And your answer is no, I have enough money. But it's the thing that I cannot reconcile in my head, being founder myself, and especially, I've done the fundraising in Silicon Valley. Like, I question myself, if today your company worth, as we say, mashallah, in thousands of billions of dollars in valuation now, and inshallah, in a couple of years, it'll be hundreds of billions of dollars, right? How do you? We all live in a capitalism mode, right? How do you reconcile that? How do you reconcile that if your company would grow to like $1 trillion club? And you don't have the equity in that. What about loss of opportunity, about all the power that you've gotten with all this equity? How does it work? I cannot reconcile that.
I don't know. I mean, I never think about it except when like someone asks in Congress, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's just not like I'm already like the more money you have to like figure out how to give it away effectively, and I just want to like think about AI, and I mean I have like lots of selfish reasons for doing this, and as you said, I get like all of the power of running OpenAI. But I can't think of like anything more fulfilling to work on. I don't think it's like particularly altruistic, because it would be if I like didn't already have a bunch of money. But like I get quite a lot of value that is worth much more to me than the money from working on OpenAI. So in that sense, like I don't think I'm like giving up that much. And I don't know. It's just like I don't think about it. I have like a lot of investments in other startups. Like, yeah, the money's gonna like pile up faster than I can spend it anyway. I like being non-conflicted on OpenAI because I think the chance that we have to make a very strange decision someday is non-trivial. And I like seeing numbers and scores go up, so I guess there's like some value there. But honestly, the way it started was like there was a technicality where it was better for me at the time not to have equity because of the way our board was structured. I thought I would like take it someday. And I kind of never got around to it. And now it's just like, I'm happy not to have it, but I don't, again, like the value I get personally from doing OpenAI so much eclipses what more money would do for me that I don't think it's like a particularly notable thing.
Thanks.
Hi, Sam. Hi, Sam. My name is Reem Al-Kubaisi here. Is OpenAI planning an IPO soon?
No.
Thank you.
No, we have a very strange structure. We have this capped profit thing. We also, like, when we develop superintelligence, are likely to make some decisions that most investors would look at very strangely. I don't really want to be, like, sued by a bunch of, like, public market, Wall Street, whatevers. So, no, not that interested.
Hi, Sam. Great to meet you. It's really a great discussion that we're having with you here. Abdullah Leshadam from Emirates Post Group. Sam, I would want to see your opinion. How would AI, Web 3.0, blockchain, IoT would really be a core system that would really cause the disruption that we're waiting for? And today, I think the biggest disruptor in our hands is our mobile phones. When would AI be a backbone of all our smartphones?
I think we'll see a bunch of ways where some of these technologies come together. One is that verification of content may become quite important. if there can be generated content, you kind of want to know if somebody's, you know, if it was made by a person, and if by which person, and that it was authenticated. And I think the blockchain might be a very interesting way to do that. I think we will also need ways to distribute the wealth generated by these systems, the governance of them, access to them, and blockchain could be an interesting way to do that. So, you know, like, we can't predict the future exactly. I'm not sure what else will happen, but that's the kind of stuff I can imagine happening. And then, in terms of this becoming the backbone of smartphones, I would bet that in a few years, it'll take some time for this to propagate, but I would bet within like a few years, a big part of the way we use our smartphones feels like the way we use ChatGPT.
Hi, Sam. I'm over here in the middle, right in front of you. Hi. Thanks for coming to Abu Dhabi and giving us this opportunity to ask you some questions. I'm Vera from LAMSA. In recent news, we hear various governments and people who have worked with the technology closely expressing concern on how AI could lead to the extinction of humankind without proper regulation. We know that AI is here to stay, and you say that there's so much more work to do. So as someone who is aware of this impending danger, being the man of your position, influence, and knowing what you know, what can you advise us as users of AI, as change makers in government, business, and just in our personal lives even, on how to ethically make use of the intelligence to ensure a symbiotic relationship moving forward for humanity?
Thanks for the question. I think some of the most important development has already happened, which is we're having this conversation. A few years ago, the world was not very focused on AI. We sort of saw this freight train coming. I totally think we can manage through this transition, but the more we can work together, the more we can have this conversation now, while we still have a relatively lot of time to decide what to do, the better we'll be. And I think the fact that we're getting this global conversation going, the fact that policymakers are paying attention, the fact that there's real momentum towards some sort of international organization, I think that's no small thing. You know, we have a lot of work in front of us, but it's worth celebrating where we are now. And the reason this is happening is because it has become something so many people are talking about seriously and weighing the importance of. So I think continuing to push on that more is great. Advocating for support of organizations that can help continue to make sure AI is used responsibly and that we keep an eye on long-term safety in addition to short-term is great too, but I think the right things are really happening.
Hi Sam, hello, this side. My name is Naima Felassi and I work for Mubadala Investment Company. So my question is very much related to regulation. So we've seen a lot of effort from different regulators and policymakers across the world recently. So what do you think would be the best model to regulate AI? And is it a mix of some universal concepts with adaptation at local level? So what are your thoughts on this? Thank you.
Yeah, I think something that is global for the parts that affect us globally, you know, in the same way we did for nuclear material, makes a lot of sense. And then I hope that we don't have too much regulation on the smaller systems that have some risks, but risks that we can afford to be reactive to and we really want to let develop and thrive. And then I think countries can make a huge amount of determination within these very broad global bounds. So I think it'll have to happen in multiple tiers.
Hi Sam, my name is Dima. I'm product manager at Bayzat. When you opened your APIs to other companies, we started using it almost next week. But
happy to hear.
But so many companies did the same, and now you can see AI powered by ChatGPT, powered by OpenAI. Is like all these labels are everywhere on the internet. So my question is product questions. How do you think companies should build their AI powered products so they create competitive advantage for them and it's hard to replicate?
When the iPhone App Store first launched, there were a couple of years, maybe not a couple of years, maybe it's like 18 months, where people would say, I'm a mobile-powered company, I'm a mobile company. And that was like a differentiator, and it was like a big deal and whatever. And there was a little boom of new companies that only made sense with these new supercomputers we had in our pocket, like Uber or whatever. But no one would call themselves a mobile company now because every company is expected to have a mobile app. right now, people talk about being AI-powered or an AI company. In a few years, I think no one will say that because everybody will have AI built in. It would be ridiculous not to. Now, you could say that's bad because you can't differentiate that way, but I think it's fine because you can't really differentiate that way now either. AI does not get you off the hook for having to be a good company. You still have to like figure out a way to differentiate in the market. You still have to find some sort of network effect, competitive advantage. And this is just like one more tool that lets you do more things better, but it doesn't excuse you from the hard work of building a company. That's fine.
Hello. Thank you very much, Sam. My name is Willie Gomez, ambassador from Guatemala. I have a question. What do you think about biases? And do you think that it's something that we can, you can handle or manage or avoid it? Especially for those countries that, or regions that are producing a lot of data, but there are other regions that are producing small amount of data. What's going to happen in the future with the biases of AI?
So bias in the traditional sense, I think it will turn out that these systems can be much less biased than humans. I think these systems can actually be a tool for reducing bias in the world. You know, if we like think of like sexism or something like that, a classic bias, because they don't have the psychological flaws that we all do, and we can teach them to be unbiased. And I think it's easier to do that than a human with all of their built-up programming and emotion and sort of societal upbringing that, as hard as we work to erase, we're imperfect at. So I think these systems can help the world be less biased, and I'm used to be quite worried about this, but I think with some of the new techniques that are developed, and you can read recent papers on this issue, I'm optimistic we can make progress there. But on the second part of your question, a world where the value system for the AI is coming from a small number of countries, or a small number of, not even let's say countries, but viewpoints that are producing most of the alignment data for an AI or the values, that would be really bad. I'm very worried about that. Part of the reason we're doing those grants that I mentioned earlier is to explore ways to get actual diverse global representation in there, because I think whatever AGI we eventually build really should reflect the like sum total and the expansiveness of humanity.
So thank you so much, Sam. I know that's the last question. Maybe we can squeeze one quick one in while you're standing, but make it brief, please.
Sam, thank you for coming here. My name is Ahmed Higazi. I work with the Emirates Post. I was just wondering if OpenAI is going to get into the robotics, and if you are planning to integrate with Tesla bot or the Tesla Android or Boston Dynamics, or empower those with the AI that you have.
We started in robotics, and we were very excited about it. We made this little robotic hand that could do a Rubik's Cube one-handed. And then we stopped because we're a small company and we have to be focused. And robotics were hard for us for the wrong reason. They weren't hard because the ML was hard. They were hard because the robot always broke and was inaccurate. And that's a bummer because I think robotics are awesome, but we don't have, and still don't have, the luxury to pursue every bit we'd like to pursue. So when we saw the language model approach and we said this can get to AGI and that's really what our mission's about, we put the robotics thing on hold. I'm still sad about that personally, and I hope someday we get back to it.
Sam, thank you so much. Big round of applause, please, for Sam Altman, their CEO of OpenAI. I'm so sorry, I know there's not enough time.
Yeah, thank you all very much.
I know you've got a plane to catch and that you've been very generous with your time today.
I wish we had more time. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.